going to start with the keyboard. So when I tap the keyboard, oops, I'm in annotation mode still. When I tap the keyboard, this big giant monster appears. This is ridiculous to type on, but I'm going to show you guys the settings you need to change to make it much more usable. I always like to say it's a lot easier to type like a T-Rex than a pterodactyl when I'm describing this to people. The way to make it look normal is how I would like to describe it, or at least smaller. This keyboard settings button in the upper left is what we want. So while we have the keyboard open, we tap the keyboard settings button in the far upper left, and that will give us this pop-up menu. I believe the only setting we have to change is tapping this button. And in the first row, second from the right, that is the keyboard you're probably going to want. So I'm going to tap it now. And then that turns it into a floating miniaturized keyboard that you can move around the screen. The big benefit to this, aside from being much easier to type on, you can move it out of your way while you're doing something else on the board. And when you're done with it entirely, just close it with the little X, and it goes away, and then you can reopen it here. You won't have to change that setting again. All right, moving on to the touchpad icon right next to the keyboard. When I tap this, it will bring up a representation of a laptop touchpad. You can move it around by grabbing or by tapping the title bar with your finger and then just dragging it into place wherever you need it to be on the screen. The reason you have a big touchpad on your interactive board, very often it's nice to be able to face the kids, or at least not have to stand in front of the board and walk in front of it to get all the way to the other side. When I move my finger over this touchpad, it will actually move the mouse for me. So you can reach all the way to the other end of the board. And for those of you who don't like the tapping to get around in the computer, if you don't like to have to double tap Chrome on a touchscreen, for example, I don't have Chrome on here. Where are you? I can just use the touchpad, and I can either tap the touchpad or the two touchpad buttons at the bottom. I can left click, Chrome will open, and I also have the option to right click with the other button.